PDGA Radio is gearing up for the Champions Cup, the 2024 edition. And on that note, Jennifer Allen and myself, Grant Zellner, have Nate Heinold, tournament director for the Champions Cup. Nate, I know how busy you are. We're just a couple of days away from the first tee. How's it going, man?
Yeah, it's going. I was up at 4:45 this morning. It's always exciting right before people come into town, and then I realized people are already in town practicing, actually. So some people skipped Nashville, and they were here Monday morning practicing.
And they're wondering, why is the course not ready?
I did have my team move up, moving a few things around to Wednesday because of that. Yes, so.
Moving things around, does that mean that the course is going to be played just a little bit differently than what we are typically expecting?
Yeah, we have two courses at Northwood, and so the main moving was having all the baskets be the same color because we're not using the black layout per se, and we'll call it Northwood Park for this event because it's 14 holes of the black course. Designed by Kip Toffer, and then kind of actually 4 holes from the gold layout from 2019 Pro Worlds that was kind of designed by myself and the original designer, Greg Nettles. And so it's a mix of the black course and then 4 holes from the gold layout. And the main reason we made that change is because this event is in the spring in Morton, in Peoria. It's not the time of the year for disc golf here generally, and the holes that we eliminated from the black course, at least holes 3 through 5, slopey, there's a large creek there, not great in the spring generally for conditions for mud, and so the holes we added have grass or flat, no hills, and so it is a different layout than you would have played. Any of the players would have played the last 2 years, but the 4 holes we've added are nearly identical to what was used at Worlds in 2019.
Well, let's talk a little bit about why you've had to make these changes. For anyone listening right now that's been a little bit out of the loop, the disc golf loop that is, for the last 9 months or so, we're playing the Champions Cup at a new venue. Champions Cup had begun really to get established down at the International Disc Golf Center in Abilene, Georgia, where the PDGA is headquartered on the iconic W.R. Jackson course. And so just don't mean to bring up sad memories for anybody, but just in brief, beetle infestation of the pine trees in that area of the country. It's a problem in a lot of areas of the country, honestly. Forced the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to go in and basically clear cut all the trees of at least one, if not a couple of different species out of that forested area, which completely altered the landscape. We have every confidence in the world that that property is going to come back. It's going to look different, but it's going to come back. But it forced this change. But we were able to ultimately, after some back and forth, settle on the same weekend. But that put you and your team into a really challenging situation, Nate, to have to get ready for a major this quickly. And I know that you have a lot of infrastructure already there because of years of, Worlds you mentioned and majors, but also years of running Ledgestone. But can you tell us a little bit about what you all had to do to fast track this and get it ready?
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of concerns about the course because honestly, we've worked 1,000 hours on the course and all of it can go down the drain if we have super bad rain. And so I knew we'd get the course ready if the weather was good. If the weather wasn't good, it didn't matter what we did. My concern was mainly getting the word out for spectators and getting all of the back end stuff. Okay, well, it's December. We have to rent porta potties and bleachers and build our scoreboard, get a video board and do all of those things. We've mostly lined all of that up. The company doing our scoreboard, we put up the white scoreboard at Ledgestone. That fell through just a few days ago, so I'm trying to cobble together a team to build our scoreboard. But for the most part, I wasn't worried about the course. I was more worried about getting everything else and getting the word out, because even a lot of our spectators, I think we had initially announced a June date, which was great for us, and we loved that date, and then it got changed. And so I think we'll see less spectators because there was some confusion around the dates. We put a lot of effort into getting the word out. In fact, we blanketed the entire town of Morton with a postcard about the event saying, hey, the event is this date. We had banners up and flyers up and all the above digital ads to get the word out. So that was a challenge, but I was never worried that we wouldn't get it done. And then the last challenge was the park had bought 13 acres of land on the east side of the property for parking and camping, thinking the event would be in June. And they were going to do it long term, but that field now is just starting to show grass and may not be available for the event. And so we had to go off site for parking for general admission and rent some shuttles. And the shuttle rental process took about 4 months, to be honest, to get, like, we just got the shuttles locked in last month. And now that lot is showing green grass and we may be able to use it instead of the off-site parking 5 minutes away. So it's just that stuff that with 5 months notice, we did it. I wasn't worried about it, but I knew there'd be some hiccups just because with Ledgestone ends and we start on the event 2 weeks later, getting the venues locked in and the main things that I have to rent that I know people haven't rented for other events yet because it's so far in advance. That was the only challenge, but when people get to the grounds, they're not going to notice any of that because all of it's going to be done.
Do you think having so many huge events in Peoria that the locals are better at coming out? Like people who don't play disc golf are hearing disc golf so much because it's such a big thing in Peoria. Do you feel like you pull in more spectators? Like you said, you're sending out postcards to just the locals in town. Is it really starting to grow in the community that much?
Yeah, I mean, Ledgestone has propelled the area into a different level for sure. And any other event that we do, if it's AM Worlds or Junior Worlds or the Champions Cup, it automatically gives name recognition. If I want to get a tourism grant from the state of Illinois, they know what disc golf is, and they gave a grant for this event that was very substantial. If I want to get a grant for the event from the city of Peoria, I'm not starting from scratch. If I want to get, I remember when I called the park district and said, hey, course in Georgia, beetle problem. Can I use the course and shut it down for a week and move baskets and flip things around and put new signs up and essentially close the best course in the world for this event? And they're like, yeah, sure. And so it was it was like, what are the dates? And I was like, well, it's June and that's confirmed, but it could move to May and it could move to April. Like, yeah, we're good with all of that. We prefer June, but we'll do any of it. So they are so good to work with. And the locals know about disc golf very, very well. But it is challenging to spectate at Northwood. And so it's not, we want spectators to come out, and we've been pushing that, but we also know that people will be watching online in big numbers as well.
What kinds of ancillary events are going to be going on, for spectators to enjoy, for the players themselves and their families that will come to enjoy? I mean, it's a PDGA Major. It's a big production, in any circumstance. So what else will be going on that maybe will attract people or give people something to look forward to?
Yeah, that's a good question. With Ledgestone, the disc golf is primary, but wow, we have so many secondary events that the disc golf becomes maybe not primary. We've got glow disc golf and escape rooms and literally flex events out the wazoo, all kinds of things. For this event, I did want to make sure the focus was on the course and the event. And so there are not a lot of side events, only because I want the focus to be on the event. However, there's a spectator course, a 3-hole spectator course, right next to hole one right off of hole one of the Champions Cup layout. We have a Merrill speed gun tent there. We have some vendors. We have an ice cream vendor. We'll have I mean, Discraft is releasing a new disc next week at the event. I'm not supposed to say that yet, but I just did, so I forgot. It's not. But
well,
this,
it'll be technically next
there you
week,
go.
so it'll
Okay.
just it'll
We're not
almost
dropping this 5 minutes from now, Nate. You got to
There you
give me
go.
some
Okay.
time to edit, man.
So we do have some cool things, but honestly, I really wanted the spectators. We have stuff for them to do there, but I wanted them. We've created, when you get to the grounds normally at Tournament Central, you're in that parking lot, and you go over to hole 1. It's kind of hard to see, and that's all you can see on the black course, because then it wraps around to hole 12 and 11 and 10. You can't see anything here. Hole 1, we've opened up the entire hillside so you can see it. And now hole 9's basket is right there by the parking lot, and hole 10 is right by the parking lot. So we have created a neat little viewing area for the Champions Cup. I tried to keep the focus as much on the golf and not as much on the Ledgestone side activities that we do, just to make sure the competition was first and foremost.
We keep talking about Champions Cup and Ledgestone. What changes with you having to run both events this year? Is that changing courses that we're going to play to make them feel separate? What changes because they're both at the same town and courses?
Yeah, I didn't love this part of it when the PDJ said, hey, we can do it there, but we don't want you to use Northwood at Ledgestone for MPO or FPO. So for Ledgestone, MPO will play 4 rounds at Eureka, and FPO will play 4 rounds at Sunset, and that's it. And so, there is some fatigue from going to Austin maybe twice in 1 year for the women, or going to Emporia twice in 2022, or Peoria twice in 2019. But if they're not playing the same courses, I mean, Northwood is the opposite of Eureka and Sunset. Northwood the course is so hard, and the layout that we have for the competitors next week, or this week, sorry, is it is. There's not going to be a course that players play all year that's easier. This will be the hardest course they play. It's very punishing if you get off the fairway. It's challenging, but it's fair.
Do you think that's going to pull in a fun dynamics for Ledgestone, that there might be different winners since the courses are going to be kind of totally different? We always had to learn 2 courses. Now we're just getting focused on 1. And like you said, the style of course is so different. So will that kind of be a fun change?
I like Ledgestone because we have the yin and yang courses. The best worlds that I've ran or played. I mean, I played Smugs in 2018 and I ran 2019. I love the wooded open concept. And that's what I've always tried to do for Ledgestone.
I do too.
So I am sad to not have Northwood for Ledgestone, but on the flip side, Northwood is never the story at Ledgestone because the men finish at Eureka, and people talk about the water tower and the bridge hole. So to make the story at Champions Cup only about Northwood and all of the work that's gone in, that is the main benefit here, is that all of the light is on Northwood for this event, and it deserves it. I mean, Kip and then my team, it's 10,000 hours or more have been spent on that property. The bridge on hole 12, it probably took a year to build in terms of, it wasn't, we didn't hire an engineering firm to come out and build it, and no bar. They built that. We built it. The team built it. Kip and his team and the volunteers that we had built that 126-foot bridge. And so I think just people seeing that property exclusively for this event has the benefit, because that property is very special.
I was looking at scores from last year, round by round, using the Ledgestone event, and I noticed something that pleased me a lot going into this event. There different playing styles and different degrees of experience can have success. It's easy to look at Northwood and go, okay, wooded course. Like it's easy to just sort of try to give that blanket statement. But the truth is, there were, in the FPO field, there were players known for distance that had success, and there were players known more for precision that had success and scored at the end of the day. They did it in very different ways, but scored similarly. On the men's side, it was a little bit more of a story of there were really experienced players. One day, one of the hotter rounds, I think, was Barsby, for example, and Ricky, one of the days they played there. But then you had Cole Redolin, who ultimately ended up winning the event, and he's a very young player with less experience overall in his career, and they're both having success. So I look at this as a really cool opportunity for either a veteran to shine or for an upstart to shine. And it's not like some other events are almost where you feel like you can predict a little bit who's going to be in the running. It's hard to know. And that's exciting for me, I think.
Yeah, well, I think this property in particular, though, and this layout, because there's actually the holes we added. We took away 4 wooded holes and added 4 park golf holes, to be honest. Now they're not easy at all, but hole 18 is 1,050 feet for the MPO without a bounds. So it's not easy at all, but this course you have to take your medicine on. I do think somebody experienced will win because, 2 rounds at Eureka without wind is not super hard. 4 rounds at Northwood, you just can't, you have to take your medicine. You may take a 7 and still win. I mean, Calvin took a triple bogey one time at Ledgestone, and he still almost won that year because it's 4 rounds at Northwood. That's 16 hours of golf, potentially, 240 throws. You have to that course, you have to take your medicine. You're gonna have bad holes, and at Northwood, you can scramble for par, but if you hit early and get off the tee bad, you're not making par unless you do something miraculous. I think this course was designed to be the U.S. Open of disc golf, where it is relentless, and so that, it's not unfair. And I'm sure I'm going to eat my words when everybody shreds the course next week because I made it too soft, but I don't think it's too soft.
I highly doubt that it's too soft. And I think it'll be interesting too, because we've been playing a lot of open and ball golf courses the last several weeks. So having to really dial back and change our techniques of what we're doing on the course will be interesting as well.
Yeah, this is not ball golf here. So
I love the way you phrase that, though. It's such a perspective. 16 hours of golf spread out over 4 days. Nate, by way of parting, any final information you want to deliver to the listener? Hopefully a number of those listening right now are going to have a chance to get out and maybe spectate in person at least one day, if not all 4 days. And any final words for them?
Yeah, I would say watching Northwood on camera is one thing, but being there in person, seeing hole 12, the first time you turn the corner and see hole 12 up the chute, it was awe-inspiring, for me, even, being there when it was 100% trees and cutting it over the period of 18 months and seeing the final product. It's still, when I turn the corner, it's like, wow, there's the basket. It's going to take me 1, 2, 4 throws still to get there, or 7 sometimes. So it really is an experience, and a wonderful experience to spectate at Northwood. And really, there's nothing like it. Yeah, it's harder to see some shots in the woods, but when you get there, you're going to see, wow, they've opened up some things for spectators. Maybe too much for them. Maybe the course will play a little bit easier than the summer because we don't quite have the full growth yet on the trees. And so
right.
It will probably play a stroke easier than last year. And the new holes we added and took away, I can't really judge. I think it plays about the same, but come out and watch. Spectator tickets are still available at Disc Golf Scene. Very excited to get these players on this challenging layout.
Well, and we hear it week after week. It's just different when the players do actually get to see, the spectators get to see us in person. It's a different experience. So yeah, I would highly suggest, if you are close to Peoria, come out and watch, because you're going to have the best players in the world playing one of the best courses. So it will be a don't miss kind of situation.
We're just a couple of days away from the 2024 edition of the Champions Cup, a PDGA Major that will look just a little bit different but will still crown a major champion in the game of disc golf. Who knows, maybe a first-time major champion or maybe a multi-time major champion. Either way, it promises to be exciting and entertaining, and we'll have lots of continued coverage on all of the PDGA's social channels, as well as, of course, on the Disc Golf Network, our partners over there at the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Nate, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the crazy amount of work that you guys have done over the last 6 to 9 months. We appreciate you, and I hope you get a chance to really shine here in a couple of days.
Thanks for both of you for having me.